Here's Hargreaves, chance for Torquay. Chris Hargreaves, the captain. If he stays onside, Carlisle checks instead. He's looking for Benyon. Sills.
Hello and welcome to the latest Gull'S Eye View. I'm joined by Dom.
Hi guys, you right?
Yeah, I'm joined by Chris.
Good evening, all.
And we have a very, very special guest today, Tim Sills. Nice to have you on.
Oh, good evening. Pleasure to be on.
Yeah, so we don't really need much introduction, but obviously, Tim, thanks for joining us. Wimborne manager. We play them at the weekend. But first of all, we're going to reminisce a little bit. And this is obviously brought to you by Galaxy TQ, our sponsor. So where should we start? Let's go a little bit back in time. We'll go back to about 2007 when you signed. And we've got a few questions from Torquay fans as well, but just want to sum up your time, sort of what made you sort of join Torquay, and like, because obviously it was a club in complete transition at the time, and sort of where it was.
Yeah, so I was at Hereford at the time, and I think we played Torquay away on our last game of the season, and you guys had already gone down at that point, and we were mid-table mediocrity, but very happy with that in their first season back in the league. But I knew it kind of wasn't going to go into a second year for me at Hereford. So started on the lookout for another club. And I think really the main two clubs that came in were Crawley with Steve Evans at the time, and Torquay with Bucks. And my first thought was that Torquay might be a little bit far, more than anything, just because obviously having been down there last game of the season, probably didn't help that I travelled from sort of Hereford way, because it made it seem even further. But yeah, so it was one of those where Crawley was probably going to be the one that were favourites. Bucks worked his magic and got me to come down to Torquay. I brought Hannah, my wife, and Imogen, my daughter at the time, who was only, what was she? She must have been 4 years old. And we came down, and he was very clever. He took us to Babacombe pretty quickly. He knew the bloke who ran the cafe down at the beach, so we all got a free bacon roll. And then it was a case of leaving Hannah and Imogen down there at the beach while I came up and had a look at the ground and the training ground and things, and was shown around, and just fell in love with it. Just fell in love with the place immediately. Came back, and Hannah and I have both been in the opinion that we should go down and look, just to make sure that we are doing all our due diligence when signing for a new club. And when I came back, she just looked at me and went, "Yeah, I think we're going to be down here, aren't we?" And Crawley made the bigger offer. Crawley offered me more money, but Torquay just felt right.
Right.
Just the mention of Steve Evans makes us growl, doesn't it, Chris?
Can't believe how well he's doing.
I tried hard not to screw my face out, but it just kind of happened without me actually trying. One of the questions I wanted to ask, which you've just answered it, was there's been this myth that you and Chris Hargreaves were coming down to sign for Exeter. Is that just totally not true?
No, I mean, Exeter were in the mix, but it was never anything too serious. I think it was Inglethorpe at the time. So I remember going down to Exeter and being shown the training ground, but I can't remember if that was before Hereford or before Torquay. But I've never been that close to signing for Exeter. I was a lot closer to signing for Crawley than I was for Exeter that time. And Rushden, I remember Rushden and Diamonds had a good budget at the time, so they were in as well. But it was once I was down at Babacombe, it was sold.
That's quite interesting. I was going to say, so immediately it was a great iconic core of players over those 2 years. What was the kind of feel when you sort of got into, because it was quite a young squad at the time, if I remember, but still had that kind of experience, that perfect balance of kind of players on the up, players who had been there, done it, like Chris Hargreaves. What was the kind of the feel? Was it straight away, let's go up, or was it just let's try and rebuild and get, we've just been relegated, get the fans back on side, new owners and all stuff like that?
Yeah, I think there was quite a lot of uncertainty there around it, because you had good, like you say, good experienced pros like Greavesy and Steve Woods there, and obviously you still had Matt Hotterley and Kevin Hill. So you had a real sort of foundation of good experience there. But then, there was so much change, I think, that summer that it was hard to predict just how well we'd do. And I think throughout pre-season, I think Bucks was brilliant at building us all up and getting us all confident, especially the players that were here and who got relegated the season before. And even those that came in, I was in a bit of a crossroads in my career where I needed a it needed to go well for me, to be honest, because I'd had a couple of or a year and a half of pretty barren spells in front of goal, and not the happiest of times in my career. So just going into the first game of the season, I felt like $1 million because of what Bucks had done over pre-season with me. And I'd imagine most of the boys felt like that as well. And we were quietly confident without being too open about it.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
What was Paul Buckle's approach on the training ground then? Was he an enthusiastic coach, I guess, that kind of thing? Was it interesting training, I guess, under him?
Yeah, and I think because we were all so close as players, I thought the training was really good. He was backed up very ably by Sean North, who Northie, lives, breathes and sleeps football, and just absolutely loves the game. I think one of Northie's biggest boasts was the fact that he'd missed every birth of his child because he was at a football match. So that probably summed up his approach to it. But I always enjoyed training. I was always felt blessed to be able to do it every day anyway. But it was always good. And sometimes it was hard to make training enjoyable in the middle of Newton Abbot Racecourse in the middle of winter and howling winds.
Were you still at the training? Were you still at Racecourse?
Racecourse.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, in a little hut for a changing room, which I randomly did have a little TV in it, I think, because I remember watching the Ashes at one point, just really randomly. But yeah. Just not the nicest of training grounds, but we made it work.
I remember that crossbar challenge that they did on Soccer AM with all lads, and when those that scored there's massive great puddles that used to just live on the kind of the periphery all winter, that everyone's sliding into those puddles when Toddy and someone else hit it.
Ellis, wasn't it?
Ellis. I wanted to say Mark Ellis. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean that was great. The fact that we had that little connection with Helen Chamberlain. I think I remember coming down. First game of the season, where was it that year or maybe in the year after, actually? I remember coming down and we were staying in a hotel. I think it was Histon away, actually, the second season, and Soccer AM being on in the hotel and seeing my shirt behind Helen's head, and just absolutely buzzing for that. But the crossbar challenge was hilarious. But those puddles were there most of the year. Felt like a good idea at the time until obviously the second person hit it, and then we were all absolutely freezing after that. But great times.
What was the sort of the difference? Because the 07-08, the first season, it was we were scoring loads, conceding quite a lot as well. And the second season, we kind of was a bit more solid, the football. Was there any kind of like mentality changes, or was it just based down to, because we didn't go for the FA Trophy the second season. It was very much, no, we're just going for promotion. And we obviously got in the playoffs last minute and then won the playoffs, where first season we were in the title race and then we fell away and all that kind of stuff. Was there any kind of differences between the two seasons, or?
Not necessarily, not too much. I think obviously personnel still changed quite a lot between the two seasons, which probably made a bit of a difference. But first season was playing without any fear, really, without any proper expectation. And we could just go out and kind of express ourselves, and that obviously meant there were some exciting games. And then exactly. I mean, 5-4 Histon down to 10 men. I mean,
I was there that day. What a bonkers game that was. Late kickoff, like an oil spill or something on the motorway or something. Was it something like that? It kicked off at 8:15. It's a late kickoff. Wasn't it, that Histon game? Was it an oil spill or something? On the motorway.
Tuesday night. 3-0 up at half time. Man sent off absolutely ridiculously. Toddy scoring the last minute winner, and us all almost running over to the ref to celebrate. And it was just. That just kind of summed up that
few months of that season, didn't it? It was a really great
the Oxford game as well, when you equalised 3-0 down at half time. I remember it.
Oh, what a game that was!
Ridiculous. There's so many, such a silly season with those games. It's just amazing.
I love that season because we went for everything, Tim. I'll say that to people. I know it ended in disappointment, but we went for everything. We pushed hard and we gave it all, and that's.
That's it.
But it was,
and that's probably why there was probably a bit of a mentality shift second season, because it probably took us a little bit of time to get going because of the hangover from the season before. And obviously, we had fresh faces to bring in who hadn't been part of that, but it was still a bit of a struggle to really get going that second season. It took us a little while until a certain scuffed penalty.
I was going
top corner.
I was going to mention
that was the
Northwich Victoria moment.
Yeah, exactly. And then after that, we never looked back, and we just grew stronger and stronger. And I think as a squad, we were probably stronger the second year in terms of strength and depth.
Yeah.
And the kind of, young talent was a bit more raw, but probably a little bit of a higher talent as well.
And yeah, like the goalkeepers, like to have Bevan and Poke in just as your two keepers in the National League at the time was ridiculous. In that second season, obviously Poke was there a bit in the first. Forest Green away, I want to talk about that when you went in goal, the famous one. What happened there? Like, what was it? Have you played in goal before? Or is it literally just like, oh, I'm the tallest one here, I'll give it a go? Or what was it like?
Yeah, so it's random. Having been the youngest of four brothers, often I got stuck in goal down the park on a Saturday. But yeah, I think it's weird. It's almost one of those where every striker almost fancies themselves as a goalkeeper to a certain extent. And it wasn't really something we'd probably talked about too much. I'd played in goal many years ago for Basingstoke, came on at just literally after half time. Well, I say came on, I was playing and then went in goal and we won that 1-0. And funny enough, someone missed a penalty. I didn't save it, but they missed a penalty in that one as well. So when it happened, and I mean, it was quite early, wasn't it? It was like almost 20 minutes in that Pokey got injured. And we kind of looked around at each other, and I think it was between me and Lee Hodges. I think it had been agreed kind of that I would do it. And I was, I'm always up for a challenge like that. So I think in my career, I probably played in goal 3 or 4 times randomly. So once for Aldershot, I know, once for Basingstoke, and I think once for Torquay. But, it was just a ridiculous night.
I suppose you've got nothing to lose, have you? If things go wrong, you're not the keeper, so it's...
Exactly. And I built my confidence up by dropping one in the first couple of minutes, which was good. But it wasn't as bad as at Basingstoke. When I went and goal at Basingstoke, the first cross that came in, I headed it away. So it didn't get bad. But I grew in confidence, and I just remember that my kind of big memory from that is having Woodsy and Hodgie in front of me at centre back. And just literally talking me through the whole game. And like when I came out and catch a ball and then launch it down the field with a throw, they'd just be running away laughing. And it was just brilliant, And then to win it sort of last couple of minutes was
what a goal that was as well.
What a goal that was. Yeah, absolutely.
I think that epitomises that squad, because I felt like they were desperate and they'd do anything for each other. And there was that camaraderie. I don't know if that was... Does that sound right to you, Tim? But it felt like that for those couple of years, especially.
Yeah, I think when you look at, the recruitment at Torquay, it's always going to be more of a struggle because of the location. But then the players you get down there, because you can't live an hour away, you can't live an hour and a half away because it's just an arse. And so a lot of us, live locally, socialise together as well. Even the young lads, on a night out, you'd be comfortable, going into, if you got split up, it wouldn't matter who you were with. And it was both seasons, to be fair, really close-knit squads, real sort of family feel. The wives all socialised with each other as well. The kids all got on, and it was just everything kind of was perfect in that respect. So you're always going to run through a brick wall for each other.
Yeah, no, I love that. It was my favourite ever Torquay team in my time, really. I mean, every question, literally from the fan, is about the day at Wembley. Talk us through kind of that whole playoff campaign, because we literally squeezed in against Burton the last day of the season, and that day at Histon, the longest football game I've ever watched. That Poke save was just ridiculous. And
I watched it in readiness for this again, and I still can't believe it now. I was behind that goal. I still can't believe it.
How did he save it? Honestly,
it's just ridiculous.
What a goalkeeper!
Couldn't hit it any better, could he?
Yeah, what a goalkeeper. Just go through what it's like from your side, obviously, because your header against Histon in the first leg. As well, what header that was. But yes, what was it like? What's it like for a footballer playing at Wembley?
Sort of going back to the first part of it, I suppose. Burton at home in the last game of the season, weird game, because they just needed, they didn't need a lot to win it,
and we just 17-0 or something like that, wasn't it?
Something like that. So, and that was the one where I think it was literally 2 minutes in, and I headbutted the back of Aaron Webster's head and did my cheekbone.
Oh, of course.
And I've never been in pain like it. Like it was almost making me throw up for the whole game. And I got to half time, took some pills and stuff, and it eased off a little bit. But it was horrendous. But I just remember in the last couple of minutes of that, at one point someone had in the corner, and it was almost like we were just all having a chat in the corner. because we knew we only needed a point. They knew that they were safe anyway. And it was a bit surreal that. But then, going into the playoffs, it's funny because I've obviously, I've watched it a couple of times, not going to lie. And, when I scored the goal at home in the first leg, obviously Steve Bow, the commentator, talks about the fact that the Baron spell is over. Yeah. I don't actually remember being on a Baron spell, but I must have been, because he wouldn't have said it. And I think it was. I think I hadn't scored in like 6 or 7 games. So it was great timing, but it was a great cross from Mance. Obviously I'd got the mask on at that point, so the celebration took care of itself. And then the away leg, we turned up, there was grit and sand and stones all over the pitch, where they'd kind of tried to make it horrible. I can't remember off the top of my head who the guy was who's known for it, just making things absolutely horrible. And then, conceding fairly early in the game and then having to hold on. It was definitely squeaky bum time.
Did the Exeter City game come into your mind at that point after the previous year and the disappointment of the comeback that year? Did that come back into your mind at that semi-final? Or?
No, not so much. Not so much. I think that was just such a freak game. That it was hard to see it happening again. When Hilly scored against Exeter that first season, and we pretty much all thought it was done. I don't think anyone could have seen that coming, and that was why it was so hard to get over. But no, I don't think so. I think by that point, our mentality was completely different. It was very much business as usual. After the game, I think you looked at the Cambridge-Stevenage game.
I remember that. They'd won it, hadn't they?
The dressing room. Yeah, well, the Torquay players, all this, apart from Margreaves showing up for the camera, is literally just like, also like we're lost. We're just so concentrated. And then they're all on the pitch, celebrating.
Yeah. Bucks barely raised a smile, did he? In all the interviews and stuff. He was kind of, I remember watching his interview, he was just like, well, it's nothing. We haven't done anything yet. And that's the mentality you need, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's what he said afterwards almost, was the fact that he thought we'd won it at that point, the final, because they were, dousing the commentators and things, and Rebecca Lowe and that in all the water and champagne and things. And we were just sat there in somber silence, ready for a final. And I think it probably helped that we'd been to Wembley the year before, because it was all very much glitz and glam, and we had ill-fitting Marks and Spencer suits on and all that, and it was just it was a great occasion. But we played the occasion, we didn't play the game. Whereas
it was either that or Armani, was it? Simple.
Well, at least it wasn't a white suit. That's the main
thing. No, I love that, because I think the game plan was perfect that day from Buckle, and just the goals were at such crucial times as well. But speak us through the goal, then. The goal. What is it like scoring at Wembley, and like the run and everything?
Yeah, no, I haven't really spoken about this much since. But no, it's something that I could never ever get bored of talking about. But I think I always have to start off with the fact, almost talking through the game with one of the first things Wayne Hatswell said to me, the Cambridge defender, was that he was going to plaster my cheekbone all over my face and things like that. So we had a right
big lad you went up with,
that's it. He tried to get me sent off by pretending I'd elbowed him. And then, I got booked, and then he got booked. And after that, I just went up to him and went, "You can't touch me now." And that first sort of half an hour was all about winning that kind of individual battle for me, which I thought I had. And then, like you say, the goals came at a crucial time. Greasy's goal, 34 minutes. Absolutely, perfect timing, because I think we'd ridden a bit of a storm, but
that poke save from Wilmot as well, I think.
That was the pivotal moment in terms of our defensive work. Other than that, I thought we looked fairly comfortable all game. And then, just before half time, I went up for a header, for a high ball, went up for a header and trod on the right back's foot, and my ankle literally twisted all the way over and ripped all of my ankle ligaments, which I didn't know at the time, but I knew I was in probably the second most amount of pain I've been in after the cheekbone. And I knew it was obviously 44 minutes, so I had to get to half time. Got into the changing room at half time, and Damo, the Fizz, took my boot off, took my sock off, and swore very loudly. And at that point, I knew I was in a bit of trouble, because I knew I was in pain, but I think it had swollen up to almost like 2 or 3 times the size already. And then the club doctor at the time, Andy Ryan, came in, and they were having a look at it, and they just could see in my eyes there was no way I wasn't going back out. And I would imagine most club doctors would have said, "Look, you're going to do yourself too much damage. You've got to come off." But he knew, and he was a good friend as well as club doctor. He only lived behind our house, luckily. And he put 3 injections in my ankle. I had 2 ibuprofen, 2 paracetamol. They strapped it up to within an inch of his life, and got me back out there. And so I always say that I'm grateful to them more than anything. And then coming to the goal, I think Benyon had got is it Bolland? Was it Phil Bolland? Got him sent off just before, and then I'd hit the post from the free kick, and then just everything fell into place. It was a bit like the Oxford one in many ways, because we were defending a corner against Oxford. This one we were defending a free kick, and I think the many times I've watched it back, I always still can't quite believe that I ended up pretty much on our penalty spot before we cleared the ball, and then ended up about 9 or 10 seconds later on the other penalty spot doing something very different. So you could just see it building up. The first header, I think once Wayne wins that first header, which he's got no right to, that's when my pace went from a light jog to what was probably one of my only times as an Olympic sprinter with one ankle as well. So quite impressive. And you could just see it building up, and I just had to drag my body along as quickly as I possibly could, just because I knew there was a chance of something special happening. And luckily Wayne provided that something special, and the rest was fairly simple in the end once I got there. So it just, it couldn't have been more perfect in terms of timing and weight of the cross and everything else, and even taking it off Benyon's volley.
Sometimes it's just meant to be, isn't it? I think it was just one of those days as well. The sun was shining, it all just fell into place, didn't it?
What a header as well.
The thing about that goal as well well, it's about the commentary as well, which obviously to all Torquay fans is so iconic to all of us. Is that that was how I saw the that was how I saw it as well, because I was about level. We were quite low down, about level with the edge of the penalty, and that was his commentary is how I saw it, because I kind of had noticed you. Because of course you're watching, because Benyon was the one that we were going. Obviously, the cross was for Benyon. So as he put the cross in, I remember thinking, it's too high.
We'll never reach
and then all of a sudden, just from nowhere, I thought, hang on, who's this? Yeah. And then of course, from nowhere, and of course, it's in that was the moment. The thing about that final, you were saying about about it all. I remember my dad says the same. I was before as a fan, you're like cat on a hot tin roof on a playoff final, but we were both really calm. Because whether it was the reaction after the game subconsciously that you were saying there, but we were both just like, we're going to win this. It's fine. There's no problem. We're going to win this. And we turned out we were right, luckily.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, and actually, Wayne, I've been on a couple of things with Wayne since, and they've asked him about that cross, and was he trying to pick out Benyon, or had he seen Danny Stevens? And he just said that's why he delayed it so long, because he looked up, he saw Danny and thought, no. He looked at Elliot and thought, probably not. And he could just see me coming. So, I mean, and, you kind of almost do it with a bit of a smile, and, he has this little glint in his eye when he says it, but there's not one part of me that doesn't believe him, because he just could do that. That was the ability he had. And it was definitely the best cross I've ever been on the end of. And what a great place to do it. So, I'm again grateful to the physio, grateful to the club doctor, but also very much grateful to Wayne Carlisle as well.
Yeah, that was absolutely amazing story. I think that's so usually it's 4 of us, and Tom sadly couldn't be with us tonight. He's working, got called into work, but he was saying a lot of stuff, nice stuff. I'll read it out later. But his thing was, what was your apart from that goal, what was your favourite goal as a Torquay player? Because I've got a few, whether it's the volley, was it Northwich?
A
header from against Rushden Diamonds.
Yeah,
I was thinking about that Rushden Diamonds goal. I was thinking then, no wonder they wanted you, because you scored that from outside the penalty area.
Yeah.
Do you remember that one in the away game? About 25 yards.
I mean that's possibly it. I think you've almost kind of mentioned a few of them. Definitely the Northwich one, which was that 3rd game of the season, having just scored at Aldershot on the Tuesday night, and just everything about that was perfect. And that's I've managed to get a video of that as well, and it's one that I really enjoy watching, just because it's a bit different. I scored a lot of headers and a lot of first-time goals, but a bit more presence of mind, that one, and a bit more composure. Obviously the Histon at home, scissor volley, that won the goal of the season, mainly thanks to a very good social media campaign. But that was a good one as well, because again it was a winner. But I have to say, my favourite goal other than the Wembley goal was the Rushden goal, because it was a decent ball from Woodsy, but the header from outside the box into the far corner I have to say it was probably the best header I've ever scored. So yeah, that
I was right behind that, and I'm thinking, how's that possible?
Yeah,
Because it wasn't
yeah,
like you kind of ran onto it and just kind of guided it. You had to put all the power on it as well. It was incredible.
Yeah, no, it was nice. He did put a little bit of spin on it, which was nice, just to help it. But yeah, it's almost when you look back and go, why did I even think of that? You know, what
Yeah.
stupid I did. But yeah, I think the only other one as well that would mention would be Northwich the season after, where I scored a header in it, and it was probably the header that I actually managed to curl it the most. It was weird. Free kick in from Nico and just rose and headed it, and actually started outside the post and ended up in the corner. And there are so many. I could go through a lot of them. There's a lot saved on my phone.
New Year's Day against Exeter City comes to mind a bit.
The 1-0 one. Yeah,
there's a bit of needle for that game, Tim. I think from what I remember, wasn't there?
Yeah, it was needle in the Boxing Day game, wasn't it? When I got Danny Seabourn sent off. Obviously the Exeter fans were baying for blood, because even the one scoring the semi-final goal at Exeter was nice as well. That was nice. Especially
that was amazing. I love that. I wiped that game from my memory because of the second leg, but that's amazing. If you watch on TV as well with all the Torquay fans in the background.
Did you try part of the excitement that season? That rivalry really spurred us on. I think it spurred them on.
Yeah, no, it was great.
Ended badly, but it made it such a lively season, didn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
That night, as a football fan, is one of those iconic things you remember. I remember when Zeb scored, when they passed it straight to Zebs and he rolled it in injury time. My dad getting cramp. The things as a football fan you remember, and the whole end's going crazy. I was like, I look around, where's he gone? And he's like lying on the floor with his leg in the air. It's one of those things you never forget.
That's brilliant. Yeah, but no, it was. I mean, I remember what we were averaging, 3,000 both seasons, and just absolutely incredible support and such a positive vibe. And you almost felt like you could speak to all 3,000 of them and be quite comfortable. So real sort
nice
of
togetherness between the team, the supporters, and
the owners as well. Which
and the owners.
Absolutely. Alex Rowe, and obviously we had Colin Lee there and John Milton behind the scenes. And, even when I go back now and there are still some people working there who are working behind the scenes, it's just so nice to see them. There's no one that I would go, I don't want to see that person, or, that person didn't treat us quite as they should have done. Everyone was absolutely fantastic. And even last time we came down as a family, we had dinner with the Rowe family. And that sort of legacy will live on for a long time.
Yeah, that's great. I think I'll wrap up the first part, and then we'll go into like the present in the second part. Thanks for joining us, everyone. We've seen part 2.
Here's Hargreaves, chance for Torquay. Chris Hargreaves, the captain. If he stays onside, Carlisle checks instead. He's looking for Benjamin. Sills.